Hey guys, so welcome back to the Mindset Junkie podcast. Today's guest is Hannah Chan. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent to have you on, Hannah. Hannah, for the guests and the listeners, who are you, where are you from, and what are you involved in?
Whenever people ask me where I'm from, I have this like minor panic attack because I don't know whether to say Hong Kong or London. But I'm from Hong Kong and then I moved to London. Basically, I used to be in the corporate world, GB powerlifter, fitness coach, now doing business coaching for fit pros. So that's everything in a nutshell.
Fantastic, excellent. Hannah, what I'd like to do is kind of take it back a wee bit further. What was it like then for a young Hannah growing up in Hong Kong? Was there any real early inspirations or clarity on who you wanted to be and what you wanted to do?
Gosh, you know what? Earlier on, when I was super young in high school, the only thing I wanted to be was cool. Like, I just wanted to be cool. That was it. But honestly, I knew I always wanted to do psychology. High school was one of those times in your life where it's kind of difficult because for a lot of people, you probably get bullied, you get judged, you get stereotyped. And so when I was in Hong Kong, or in high school, I didn't always felt like I belonged in a specific friendship group because I was kind of with everyone and anyone. And so I didn't really feel like I had any real friends. Um, so I went through this period of time where basically when I was 13, my dad died unexpectedly. And then a few years later, I developed this habit during IB, which is like the equivalent of A levels, of just going out, underage drinking, partying, getting wasted over the weekend, while still, maintaining decent grades. So that was basically my high school and my Hong Kong experience in a nutshell.
Yeah, obviously that was a big event, losing your father at such a young age, Hannah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I think a lot of the time, the stuff that happens to you when you're young ends up shaping who you are. But for me, I was so young that I felt like I couldn't even fully process the emotions of what was going on. And it's so funny because whenever we think about a family member or someone close to us dying, we always feel like, oh, it's not really going to happen to me where, I lose someone at such a young age because it's just so tragic that it's probably not going to happen to me.
Yeah,
Or we think, oh, well, if it did happen, I would probably cry for like 6 months and, crawl into a hole and not be able to function. And for me, I was at, such a young age where even though it did happen to me, I felt like I couldn't fully process the emotions. But then now looking back at it, I feel like, whenever something bad happens to you, we can always look at it from two different perspectives, right? Like you can either look at it from a place of, oh, life sucks and I'm a victim and, why is this happening to me? Or from a place of, oh, well, look, it's happened, but I can take that as an experience. And it's an event that's going to empower me and shape me into, who I am today. So thankfully, because I'd say through business, I've got a pretty decent mindset. I've been able to adopt the latter approach.
yeah, definitely. But I suppose that you're getting that looking back with hindsight as well too. At 13, 14, you're probably not processing that so easily in terms of, right, well, I'm going to use this as a positive experience. So at that age, it's probably a lot more difficult to process that or understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically, the backstory was my parents were on holiday in Spain, and my dad had a stroke in his brain, and my family had no history of stroke. But he was basically hospitalized. And what my mom told me was they were about to do a museum tour, and they went to the bathroom just before the tour, and they both met back. And my dad wasn't really speaking; he wasn't really able to like communicate. And at first, my mom thought he was just like messing around. But then she realized that, well, this was serious. And so she called the police or the ambulance. He was hospitalized. And then because we were so young, my mom wasn't sure how to communicate that to myself and my sister. And so she flew us out to the country. We had to stop. And this was before exams as well, like mock GCSEs. We had to like stop everything, fly out to Spain. She basically explained, look, there's a 50% chance of your dad either living, but never being able to walk or write or speak again. And another 50% that he's probably not going to make it. And so, of course, like, me and my sister being so young, that was difficult for us to process in the first place. And honestly, looking back, I wasn't even sure what was worse or what I wanted.
Yeah.
Anyway, a few days had passed. Basically, we got the news that he wasn't going to make it. And that was the backstory. And so looking back, I think a few years later, maybe like 2 years later, as I started to go through that, teenager phase of being slightly rebellious,
Yeah.
I ended up maybe looking back, coping with it by just like going out on the weekends and doing a bunch of crap that teenagers shouldn't really be doing.
Yeah.
Drinking, drugs, just adopting that attitude of my poor mom as well. Like sneaking out at night when I'm meant to be going to bed to go party, using a fake ID, things like that.
What most teenagers are doing, really, to be fair, isn't it? Going out and being rebellious 100%. So for you, even Hannah, was sport and fitness a big part of your life growing up?
100%. Well, you know what? Like growing up, no, I was the person who was like picked last for netball. I was the girl who was like benched. The only thing I was really good at was cross country running, which ironically isn't something that I even like to do.
Yeah.
So in high school, they would always pick me to be on the team, and I didn't even want to be on the team. But that was like early stages. And then I think the biggest shift for me was really, and even in terms of like personal development as well, is when I left Hong Kong, graduated to go to university in the UK. And so in my brain, I was like, okay, this is my time to turn my life around and stop drinking and start going to the gym and, get a six pack and look good for the boys, things like that. So I started lifting weights, bodybuilding. This was in like 2012, so 8 years ago. When even lifting weights for females wasn't such a big thing. And I, basically found out that I really enjoyed doing that. So more so lifting to look good, right? Because, people my age, or back then at like 17, 18, who lifts for health reasons. Everyone lifts to look good. But then a few months in, I started developing an obsession with, which is pretty common for bodybuilders, with wanting to look a certain way and having that bleed into your life too much, where it was affecting your day-to-day, lifestyle and social life and diet. And I became obsessed. And then that's when I started to shift my focus to powerlifting.
Yeah.
Which shaped me partly into who I am today, because once I changed my training from lifting to look good to lifting to be strong, and looking good was a byproduct of that. That's when I started competing, and then competing and training for competition was what allowed me to develop that resilience and that discipline. And for the first time, that feeling of like, wow, I'm really passionate about something.
Brilliant. How did you said you competed for Team GB in powerlifting? How did that transpire? How did that come about, Hannah?
Yeah, so I competed for the first time. It was like a regional, London small competition. And I came first overall in my weight class. And after that, I was like, I'm pretty good at doing squats. So then I started to compete in bigger competitions. And then one of the first ones, or like early stages, was the British Championships. And then I came fourth in my first ever British Championships. And then from then on, I came first in the English Championships, and then got selected for the Commonwealth, which was my first, international big competition at the Olympic Stadium in Vancouver. And then I came third in that. And then since then, I just competed in like higher and higher level competitions until I won the British and broke the British records, and then got selected for Worlds and Euros. So that's, powerlifting, how I just slowly started to get good at that.
Yeah, fantastic. At that time then, Hannah, was it you still involved? Like, what was the career path then? You said you worked in the corporate world. What were you doing exactly?
Yeah. So, corporate slave by day, GB powerlifter the minute the clock strikes 5. Because I was in headhunting in the pharmaceutical sector, which, sounds glamorous, sounds well paid, sounds respectable, but it was nothing like that, because really what I was doing was, I was a glorified admin person, just editing spreadsheets and uh, transcripting interviews. And I was taking home, less than 1,700 pounds a month, which in London, that, is pretty difficult. It's a paycheck to paycheck situation. And so because I was also powerlifting on top of that, my goal was to be able to actually quit my corporate job and be a full-time fitness or, powerlifting coach. And I would see all these fitness coaches online on Instagram, and they'd be posting these cool photos and showing sneak peeks of their client check-ins, and taking pictures of their coffee and their journaling. And I would look at that, and then I'd look back on my desk at my office, and I'd be like, oh gosh, like I wish I could have that life of freedom where I could run my own business, even just match my corporate salary and do what I love.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was thinking, well, this job I can do better. I know I can do better. And it wasn't really, like mentally challenging.
Yeah.
So then that's when I started to listen to a bunch of podcasts. And that's when I really started to get involved in the, entrepreneurship, high ticket coaching consulting space online.
Yeah, fantastic. What did you learn, do you think, from your corporate world that has transferred over into what you do right now as a mentor and a coach?
Yeah, this is controversial, but one of the biggest, okay, some backstory here in corporate. My job was, I was a fresh graduate. And because we were headhunting for very senior level positions, one of my positions, or like one of my tasks, was to cold call the switchboard to try to get through to a bunch of directors, senior directors, VPs. And so I hated doing that, because as a fresh graduate who, knew nothing about the industry, my mind was like, who are you to call a bunch of high level people who are so busy, who probably don't even want to talk to you, and who like know a crap ton more than you.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, scary. And I didn't know about the term imposter syndrome, but I would say, that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
And so looking back, the guy I reported into, he basically told me, like, you know what, authority is contextual. And yeah, while they might know a lot in their space with pharma and drugs and, whatever the function is, when it comes to recruitment and the overall market, you're the one who knows better than them. And ultimately, even though you feel like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, you just got to fake it till you make it, man. And so I was like, okay. And so I think it's so funny, because that translates over into what we tell a lot of our clients too. When we say like fake it till you make it, I don't mean deceive people, right? I don't mean, hey, as a business coach, let's pretend that you're making 7 figures when really you're broke and you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm talking about, if you want people to buy from you, there's a certain confidence and energy that you need to have within you, so that you can translate that onto your prospects and onto the people that you work with.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's to try and enhance belief in yourself, really, isn't it? Like faking it until you're making it, seeing yourself as that person that you want to become, and basically generating that belief within yourself so that you can show up.
Yeah, exactly. And even, I think a lot of the time, especially when we're in a niche where we work with people who maybe they're in high level positions, or, corporate CEOs, or, VPs, it's like, yeah, we always want to look at it from a place of authority is super contextual. So yeah, they might be the authority in their space, but really you're the authority in yours. And it's almost like a fitness coach who may not even have um, graduated, right? But they really know their stuff when it comes to fat loss, is trying to help a CEO of like some Fortune 500 company. And yes, they both have different specialties, but in the context of weight loss and fat loss, the Fit Pro is the one who, well, knows this stuff more. And a lot of the time we get intimidated by, the type of people that we talk to, but just remembering that authority is contextual is super helpful, I think.
Yeah. Well, what did you see as your biggest challenge going on the entrepreneurship and starting your own business, Hannah?
Biggest challenge was definitely, I want to say mindset, but that's so broad. But I would say the biggest challenge is putting in the work and not seeing instant results and not getting discouraged, especially when you're first starting your business. It's so easy to compare your day one to someone's, 5 year, like someone who's been doing it for 5 years. And for me, the biggest challenge was when I first got into it. Like, yeah, I had all these credentials from powerlifting and like fitness and everything. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things online, it's like no one really knew who I was. And so I was putting in the work every single day, and I still wasn't seeing it translate into paying clients. But I think I didn't lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think where most people give up too easily is they put in the work, or maybe they hire a business coach or a mentor and they don't see results in 4 weeks, and they kind of lose faith in the process and give up and think it's not for them.
Yeah.
I think the most successful people, they have this ability to tolerate situations which, most people wouldn't be able to tolerate. Like for me, I invested like 2, 3 different things before I finally saw a result. And I was able to put myself in really uncomfortable positions that basically forced me to continue. So I think for most people as well, it's that delayed gratification of knowing that, yeah, like if you put in the work, look, like maybe you won't get results for months.
Yeah.
And maybe it will take you like 5 months before you get your first paying client. But
Yeah.
so long as you're doing the right behaviors, there's physically no way that you can fail.
Especially, I think, in the online space, where a lot of people are maybe just jumping into the online for the first time, and they see it as, oh, I'm just going to like run some ads and everybody's going to know me, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm going to get this influx of prospects and they're all going to pay me loads of money. But it's like
Yeah.
any business, you have to build the foundations first and foremost. You have to build the awareness, you have to build the brand, and let people know what it is exactly that you're doing. And I think, as you just mentioned, sometimes we sow the seeds and then we expect to reap the harvest at the same time. Well, it doesn't really work that way. You sow the seeds at one part of the season, you reap the harvest in the other part of the season. And patience is a massive virtue that most people aren't willing to, not that they don't have it, but they're not willing to go that bit longer. And as you said, like dig in deep when you need to dig in deep.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is too, is that for a lot of people, I mean, especially those who maybe are just starting their own businesses, or they're trying to leave their 9 to 5 to do something full time. A large part of it is, the believability that it's actually possible for you, because so many people have this, you know, upper limit in terms of what they believe is possible for them.
Yeah.
And so if you're in a 9 to 5, for example, and your, dream come true goal is to make 10K, because you want to live the life of freedom and you want to travel and be your own boss and have, financial abundance. But there's part of you that tells yourself, oh, it's too good to be true. Oh, it's possible for other people, but it's not possible for me. There's that upper limit in terms of what you feel like is possible for yourself. And so because you have, that limiting belief, or because you don't fully have that certainty it's possible for you, you won't take the aligned action to get there. And because you won't take the action, you won't get the result. And so that almost just feeds into that cycle of you thinking it's too good to be true.
Yeah, boils right back into that belief again, and the mindset issue with a lot of people, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, and again, a lot of the times we're completely unconscious of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For yourself, Hannah, obviously, like being a female in a largely male predominant coaching space, what you mentioned, imposter syndrome, was that a big issue for you? Was there a fear there, like going in and doing what you're doing? Or was there a point to prove?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I don't, you know what? I don't think that being female in like a male dominated space
Hopefully that doesn't
ever.
sound sexist, but it is a
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, of course. No, I know. No one's offended here.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. Honestly, I was just thinking about this yesterday because when process of like basically hiring another team member, and I was just thinking, whoa, like my entire team are dudes.
Yeah.
Basically, because personality wise, I'm like a guy too. But no, honestly, I think looking back, um, I would say being female never really contributed towards that imposter syndrome. If anything, I feel like it's allowed me to attract a lot of, other females too, because in a way they resonate with me more just as a person.
Yeah.
But also what I realized is there are some other females in my space who I'm actually friends with, and they do really well too. But I've noticed that I'm one of the few females who has a pretty even split of male and female clients. Because from what I've seen, other female business coaches tend to only attract female clients, whereas the male business coaches tend to, be a bit of both.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's probably my personality. Like naturally, I'm not the most like energetically. I'm not the most like rah rah, traditional like spiritual energy, let's manifest on our crystals sort of energy.
Yeah. You're pretty straight talking and an action taker, 100%.
People say I'm blunt. So,
Yeah. How has business been then, and how have you dealt with it this year? We met in January in
yeah.
Nashville, with TNF, and then you went traveling for a bit. Yeah, you went to, where did you say you went to again, Hannah?
I was in San Diego for 4 months,
Yeah.
and then was there like before lockdown. I mean, during lockdown and when the coronavirus happened. And it's crazy because I had just signed like a short-term lease for an apartment, and that same day, all the furniture shops closed, and my apartment was like unfurnished. And the only thing I managed to get was a bed, not even Wi-Fi. So I probably spent like hundreds of dollars having to like buy a hotspot on my phone
This was in
in San
America.
Diego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? Well, what was the overall experience like? What did you learn from it?
I learned that weed is legal in California. But it's crazy, because at first I moved there to avoid the UK weather because it's cold and it's raining and it's kind of depressing. And I moved to San Diego because I knew a few people there, and the weather was good.
Yeah.
And just the culture there is so different. But what I realized is that a lot of the time traveling looks cool. Like on the outside, it's like so cool and so glamorous and, such a good life to be able to travel. But for me, that's never really something that resonated with me because it just ended up stressing me out even more. Maybe it's my personality type. I need structure. I need home. And even when I was in San Diego and I had that, short-term apartment, it still didn't feel like a home. And, I'm surprised to say that I actually missed London.
Yeah. So when COVID hit then, Hannah, how did that affect you kind of in your own mindset? How did it affect you in your business? And what did it make you learn or do to adapt and grow during this time?
That's such a good question. Honestly, when COVID hit, at first, I think everyone was going through this crazy time of like, oh my gosh, business is going to suck. But then I think with things like that, there's always two different ways of looking at it, right? There's either a place of, oh no, like business is going to fail. I'm going to have to slow down and pull back because of everything happening. No one wants to invest. Or there's the perspective of, oh, well, now's, even better of a time to go all in. because what it means is that your competitors are the ones taking a backseat, which means that you can dominate. And what we saw as well is that our cost per lead was a lot cheaper. Our cost per app was a lot cheaper. And yeah, like there are a few tweaks that we had to make in terms of messaging and objection handling and things like that. But and yeah, I would say, short term, our business, revenue wise, sales wise, did dip a bit in the very beginning. My belief is that it did for a lot of other business owners as well, whether they like to admit it or not. I know for my business, short term, it definitely took a dip, but then it actually went back up beyond that. And a large part of it too is I think it comes down to having an actual product or an offer that your market is going to need, and then being able to position it in a way so that it's actually relevant to what was going on.
Yeah, and yours was exactly because you're selling online, isn't it, the Fit Pros, Hannah? Yeah, so
Yeah.
like with the vast majority of gyms closing, most people were having to make that transition. We had to do it with everybody. It was in our group. We had to get them to transition to an online offer. And now it's kind of happening again, where here where we are, a lot of gyms are closing back down again, having to transition and do online. So yeah, it's good that you mentioned that because it is just like a different way of looking at it. And that depends on kind of how you think and your perception. And again, what your beliefs are, because most people and a lot of people would have went, all right, it's a pandemic. I'm going to sit back and we can't do anything. The world's coming to an end. My business is going to collapse. Or you take action and you look at the opportunities and you look at what you need to do to thrive and keep pushing forward. 100%. Do you think that that's something that you have engineered, Hannah, or do you think that that's something that's always kind of been within you, like that type of mindset?
I would definitely not say that I've always had that sort of mindset. If anything, sometimes I look back at the old messages that were back and forth between me and my old mentor, and I was like, wow, this is really victim energy based. And he even told me too. And I think with mindset, it's definitely one of those things that I had to train and actively work on, and almost reprogram my mind to think about things in a different way. And a large part of it was obviously, the mastermind we were in, just being so indoctrinated with an environment that can help you crush your limiting beliefs and replace them with better ones. Biggest thing for me wasn't necessarily, strategy or how to sell or anything that was more tactical. It was more so changing and helping me develop the way I think, because I think that's what's allowed me to, well, obviously scale my business. And at least from what I believe, like, going from 0 to maybe 10K is, a large part of it is mindset, but also is tactical. Whereas scaling beyond that is more of, reprogramming your identity and the way you think too.
100%. And I
Yeah.
see that a lot of the times as well too. And that's a common phrase, like 80% of your business is mindset, 20% strategy or tactics. Because you could have all the best tactics and strategies in the world, but you've got bigger limiting beliefs that won't actually let you take action on them. So
Yeah, exactly. One of the big things for me was um, when we talk about how my mindset has shifted. For example, for me, I'm able to, default. For example, if something happens, to business or to me, I'm able to stop that thinking of like, oh, this sucks. Why is this happening to me? To like, what can I learn from this? And how can I make sure it doesn't happen again? And that's probably the biggest tangible thing that I can say in terms of mindset is having my brain default to reflecting it in a way that's empowering and actually serves me versus just like sitting in it and complaining about something.
yeah, fantastic. What's the plans now then for business moving forward, Hannah? What are the goals for the rest of this year and then moving into 2021?
Great question. So honestly, goals for this year for me, our business has kind of been at that point where each part of the business, either someone full time is doing it or it's been outsourced. So like sales, Facebook ads, fulfillment, marketing. For me, biggest thing there is I want to be able to scale that while maintaining the integrity of client results. Which I see that a lot of the time in my space, at least,
Yeah.
is as business owners scale, fulfillment just kind of takes a backseat because it's all about like, oh, money, 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 like revenue. So I'm actually in process of restructuring our fulfillment to make it even better. and also really having more structure in place for our backend clients that I work with one-on-one, to make sure that our fulfillment is really on lockdown even more.
Yeah, definitely. Because as you say, if you're looking to scale and you're looking to grow, a lot of people forget about the back end and they forget about
Mm,
fulfillment. So if you're bringing people in constantly and people are leaving again, then obviously the product needs work, the fulfillment needs work, or you're never going to grow anyway. Like you might have your
yeah,
market and your sales dialed in, but if people are constantly leaving, then obviously there's something wrong with the product, and you're never going to get that growth. Where most business owners are focused solely on like new leads, and they're forgetting about the most important thing.
exactly. And even like people think that the sale, once you get them in the program and they give you their credit card number, like, oh, it's a done deal. But really, fulfillment is one of the biggest levers or one of the most underrated levers, because if you can deliver such a good service, then you can actually resell your clients on the back end, which means that, even if we were to speak completely selfishly, they give you more money. But beyond that, they're actually happy with the service. You've actually changed their life. And it's much easier to sell someone who you've already built a relationship with, as we all know. And I think a large part of that is also why, like for us, we get around 40 to 50% of people actually continuing to work with us, which, zero ad spend, a way easier sell, and obviously the results are there. So
Exactly.
that's
And not only that, I think just from a coaching perspective and as a mentor, you're going to feel so much more satisfied because you've got people in there who are willing to stay, who are getting
yeah,
results, and who are staying, which means your product is good, which means what you do is good. Um, you're getting more sense of fulfillment and contentment from that than anything, I feel, as a coach.
exactly. I think even for us, like one of the things that we've been able to really nail down is maintaining that high touch one-on-one,
Yeah.
while like scaling to what we've been able to scale to, because a lot of the time when people have one-on-one, it's either, well, a lot of the time, like a high touch one-on-one is great, but the business owner a lot of the time is also at pretty early stages themselves, which is why they're able to offer that one-on-one. And so from what I see, at least a lot of the time as business owners scale, they tend to put everyone in a group or just turn it into a course with a Facebook group of like 200 people, which is amazing for profits,
Yeah.
amazing for scalability, not so great for client experience and results.
Yeah. 100%.
So that's something that we've been able to work on the past year. That is probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that we're able to scale to the level that we have, while still maintaining a really high touch one-on-one and really good client experience. And it's so crazy because we see clients come in who, they'll say they've been burned before by like massive group programs, and they'll come in and they'll be like, whoa, like you guys actually help me, like you guys actually give me one-on-one support, as if as if it's a surprise.
It's crazy, isn't it? It really is crazy because I think then a lot of the times integrity for a lot of mentors and programs like that just goes out the window. It is just about numbers and not about actually getting people results and the experience.
Yeah, yeah, which sucks that it's, it's a bit more of the norm than the exception nowadays, but
Yeah, definitely. For yourself, Hannah, do you have any like type of routine that you do to keep yourself sharp? Any type of routine that you do to keep yourself? You've mentioned mindset. Obviously, we're on a mindset podcast. Anything that you do to condition your own mind every single day, or what you're watching, what you're reading, what you do?
yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I always do is an end of day routine. And that's what allows me to reflect on the day, where I could have done better, where I was triggered, what I did well. So I'll basically make my some questions, free journal on things, and then also write my physiology, my inspiration, things like that. Because I think a lot of the time, whenever we have that data to work with, we can always correlate it with, okay, how am I performing? Is it because my biology is off and things like that? Another thing is I like to just go on walks in my area while listening to podcasts.
Yeah, fantastic.
That allows me to, well, be productive and make sure that I'm staying healthy and also learn something new. So a lot of the podcasts that I listen to are more so leadership based or around mindset. And third thing is controversial, but I'm a business owner and I actually watch Netflix. I think so many people look at Netflix as if it's like a sin to do, but I watch, like, I love Netflix. I'll watch Netflix to wind down. No shame in the game.
Yeah, again, that's as you said, it's a big thing that's put out there. Or you couldn't be focusing on your business, or you're allowing junk into your mind. Everybody binges out on Netflix. Everybody likes a day on the sofa where they have to do nothing. And you look at that as a productive way because it's helping you recover. It's giving you kind of what you need. You can come back stronger the next day, 100%.
Yeah. Even for me, I would say the biggest, like absolute biggest lesson that I've learned, or maybe like one of the biggest, was that you don't always have to be pushing at 100% long term to scale as aggressively as possible. It's actually about giving yourself some grace to, have some pull days or some more relaxing days, because long term, those days is what allows you to, manage your energy long term without burning out. It's kind of like when you go to the gym, well, rest days aren't just days where you like sit around and not do anything. There are days which are needed for your muscles to recover so that they can grow.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for me was allowing myself to actually enjoy the process of, hey, look, if I want a day or half a day where I just watch Netflix without feeling guilty, then like absolutely I'll do it.
I had Ben McClellan in the Academy 2 weeks ago when he did a talk for the group on energy,
Yeah.
the 5 energies of life according to Chinese philosophy, and understanding like those different cycles of energy and different times of season that we're in as well
Yeah.
too. Like it's nearly like some people might be more. He mentioned wood and metal and
Yeah.
fire, etc. And like this time of the season now, it's more autumn, fall. He says depending on where you're at energetically, like within yourself or within your business, a lot of times understanding that because sometimes we're trying to push, let's say this time of year, when energetically you might be like person that's more inspired in spring.
Mm,
You're more alive in spring. It says so this time of the year could be better for you to like work on systems, work on operations, work on fulfillment instead of growth. And it was fantastic
yeah.
the way like getting you to understand that because a lot of the times, like you said, sometimes we are trying to push, and we're fighting against the very energy that is that we actually hold, and it's more stressful. And we're never actually moving forward. We're actually doing ourselves harm.
Yeah, I agree, especially when in like financial or like money ROI niches, people, we've made the whole like, hey, uh, scale as aggressively as possible. Like that messaging is so sexy that I think a lot of business owners almost feel like they have to constantly be as aggressive as possible with scaling top line revenue when sometimes, there's absolutely nothing wrong with purposely taking a step back to focus more on systems and back end things and self development. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think a lot of the time people feel bad when they're not growing by 30% each month because we've been so indoctrinated with marketing all around us and Facebook ads, which tells us that we got to do something, we got to grow quick or else we're doing something wrong. And I was at this period of time like last quarter, beginning of last quarter, where like revenue wise, team wise, we were growing, but I wasn't happy. And the reason why I wasn't happy was because I was burnt out and I was doing stuff in my business which I didn't feel aligned with. And I had to sit back and reprioritize my life. And I was like, what do I even want right now? And the biggest thing that I wanted was to have better work life balance and to fix my sleep issues. And so, I realized that I developed the self awareness for that, worked on that. And now, I'm actually excited about doing the things that I do in business.
Yeah, fantastic. And you're so right because we get conditioned to believe that we have to keep pushing, we have to keep growing, we have to keep doing X, Y, and Z. And then other issues pop up then in terms of our health and stress and all
Yeah.
these different things, anxiety, etc. Yeah. So understanding that, being more self-aware and taking that step back can help you course correct for sure. Hannah, top 3 books. What would be the top 3 books that you would recommend to the listeners?
Psycho Cybernetics,
Fantastic.
The Big Leap, and her Spin Selling. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read The Big Leap. I've read the other two. Psycho Cybernetics would be one of my favorites, 100% by Maxwell Maltz. Fantastic book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All about identity reprogramming mindset. Big Leap's more about like crushing your upper limits or upper boundaries, just kind of like we spoke about. And Spin Selling, I mean, all around great books for sales.
Yeah, 100%. Hannah, for people who are looking to find out more about you, maybe your services and what you do mentoring, where is the best place to find you?
Yeah, so if you shoot me a message on Facebook, my Facebook profile is facebook.com/hannahchan0921. Or on Instagram, my Instagram is hannahchan921. So September 21st. So if you shoot me a message there, we can chat about it.
Fantastic. Hannah, it was great to chat.
You as well. Thank you for having me.
Speak soon.